Hello, and welcome to the Perfect Franchise Podcast.
I'm Kris, and joining me is my wonderful co-host, Andrea.
In this podcast, we're on a mission to help you discover all that franchising has to offer.
We'll explore expert strategies, interview successful franchise owners, and give you the tools to make informed decisions.
So whether you're considering your options or you're ready to take that plunge, we're here to support you every step of the way.
So let's jump into today's episode. Hi, welcome to another episode of the TPF podcast. Today, Andrea and I super excited to have some folks from Chatime. We've got Carlos Antonius, Global CEO. We also have our friend Michael Tilbrooke, U.S. Director of Development for Chatime. Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. So guys, start us out. Maybe Carlos, maybe you start. Tell us, what's the inspiration behind this brand? How is it created? What's the origin story here?
So thank you to everyone for the opportunity to talk a little bit about Chatime on your podcast. So thank you. This year will be our 20-year anniversary of the Chatime business. So back in 2005, Henry and Theresa, our founders, who were still actively involved in the business, identified an opportunity to showcase bubble tea, or Boba, as it's known in the US, on a global scale. Back in 2005, Boba was emerging as a beverage product or beverage trend, and it is a category and a product that is synonymous with Taiwan. And so the journey of Chatime began in 2005. And as I mentioned, with Henry and Theresa still actively involved in the business. And as we sit here today, we're now across 30 markets across the globe with 1,400 locations trading.
For those listening and watching, I know when I talk about Chatime, there's a broad spectrum of people. Some people, you say bubble tea, Boba, they love it. Oh, have it all the time. On the other end, other people scratch their head. They have no idea what we're talking about. So for those folks, catch everybody up on exactly what it is. Is it purely delicious, or is there some health benefits? Talk to people about it so we don't assume some knowledge here.
So Boba traditionally is a milk-based product, which can be customized to sweetness levels with the addition of fructose or alternate sweeteners. And it contains a ingredient called tapioca pearls. Tapioca pearls are made from a starch, and they are generally cooked to order, and traditionally in brown sugar or a sugar concentrate, and they are added to a milk tea product, which predominantly will either have a black tea base or a green tea base, but predominantly a black tea base. That is our number one selling SKU across the globe. And generally with Boba or bubble tea brands, milk tea with tapioca is generally the number one SKU across the category for global brands in this space.
Okay. And if I could ask a follow-up, when we're talking about the menu of Chatime, is it only Boba, or are there other things there? How broad is it?
So we currently have various categories across the Chatime menu. So dairy-based product, which includes our milk tea products such as with tapioca. We have a range of green tea syrup-based products, so flavors such as peach or lychee, tropical, to name a few. We have segments such as energy, where we collaborate with brands such as Red Bull, currently across a number of markets. We do dabble in coffee in some markets through a cold brew with a topper added to that. So we have a number of products across a number of segments, so smoothies, milk tea products, iced tea products, coffee. Over the next 6 to 12 months, there's quite a significant array of new verticals that will be launching post test and trial in a number of markets, which will extend our menu offering not just in the US, but through many of our markets in which we trade currently.
That's great. So, Michael, since you're kind of over the US, help me understand how, this probably was slower to join us in the US, right? It started over in Taiwan. So, how much are the franchisees educating the public on bubble tea and boba? Is this something that's really taken off, or do you feel like when they're validating, are people out there kind of educating on this a lot?
I think it depends on the age group. When I talk to individuals that have teenage children, they generally smile, and I usually know that they're spending a lot of money on bubble tea when their kids go into bubble tea stores. So if you look at the target market, traditionally has been your Gen Zs, age 12 to 27. And we're starting to see effects of groups around that main age coming into bubble tea. For example, myself, I did not know what bubble tea was a year and a half ago before I started working with Chatime. In fact, yeah, I have a little story. I was in the hotel in Los Angeles with Carlos and his team, and the manager of his Culver City store ordered us all a drink. And we were sitting in the reception around this large coffee table, and we had 10 or 15 samples that were delivered to us. And the gentleman, the manager, handed me my drink. It looked great. And I know now it was a slushy mango drink. Anyway, so I was trying to get the film on the top of the drink open. And I was wondering if there was anything wrong because I couldn't pull the film off. And Carlos luckily saw me. And this was after about 30 seconds. And he said, "Hey, Michael, here, let me show you." And so he gave me the straw and he pushed it through. And so that was my experience. So I think there are people now that are experiencing it through that major target group. I would say that traditionally, bubble tea has been concentrated in Asian dominant areas. However, with Chatime and the marketing that they do and the licensing agreements that they have with Western type licenses like Barbie, SpongeBob, Red Bull, and then also I want to give Carlos a shout out, leading the Australian team. In Australia, they have the largest market share. They've got around 175 locations in Australia. So they basically got a demonstrated success rate over there, along with Canada, in terms of marketing the brand to a lot of different age groups and outside, the Asiatic communities as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. So let's talk operationally, business wise now. Because what I'm picturing is you have comparing Chatime to like a full-fledged restaurant, somebody who's selling burgers or pizzas or things. I'm picturing a smaller retail footprint. I'm picturing less complexity in the build out and the equipment. It's a more limited menu. That makes me think less employees. I might be totally off there. So either one of you, Carlos, Michael, kind of talk to me about what that looks like from a physical location and the operations and try to point out what advantages it might have over other food related concepts that do have a bigger, more dense menu. Does that make sense?
Yeah, look, absolutely. And happy for Michael to jump in on this as well. So with 20 years of experience, we've learned a lot about our model and we continue to do so. In relation to the footprint, it really does depend on the location and more importantly, the markets in which we trade. Our footprint in square feet ranges anywhere from about 350 square foot up to about 1,500 or so. Okay. Predominantly, we do like the smaller footprints, and a number of reasons as to why. One, being in the beverage category, convenience is key. So identifying high traffic mall locations where we can install smaller footprints, and we refer to them generally as kiosks, enables us to drive a higher rate of turnover per square foot, which is, from an operations perspective, in any retail business, what you're seeking to achieve. From a operational perspective, simplicity is key in any business model, particularly a retail business model. We run limited SKUs or products on our menu. Generally, we try to have no more than 40 SKUs on our menu, and that's really driven by data and insights. So, what are consumers buying in a particular market? What's driving margin profitability for the operator? And how do we continue to monitor and inform our decision making around menu innovation? From a operations and training perspective, we utilise blended learning, so a mixture of classroom training and digital e-learning. So we can generally have a franchisee or team members generally up to speed to operate within their environments within 1 to 2 weeks. What we have invested in significantly is in relation to digital, like most retail and food operators, so much so that many years ago we invested in developing digital SOPs. So in essence, as a customer orders, whether that's through traditional point of sale or through one of our many digital channels, that SOP then comes up on the KDS screen in the back of house. So even with limited training, a staff member can follow the steps, can manufacture the product, and can meet our speed of delivery targets, and ensuring consistency of the product for the consumer and for the benefit of the network as well.
Carlos, I'd like to add some things that you shared with me, and I know there's so much, but that resonate with when I talk to candidates coming into the business, especially if they have been looking at a quick service restaurant type concept. I think the supply chain is a huge factor and advantage in this business. La Cafa manages and controls most of the production and quality. They have innovation and testing labs in Taiwan. And so for an owner, the management of inventory is extremely easy because about 85% of the product comes from La Cafa. It's shipped into Long Beach and then to the Chatime Distribution Center in Kansas City. The other 15%, Chatime has a contract with, and those are generally the creams and the milks, and they come from a single vendor. They also have just added an inventory management system to the technology package. In addition to that, and many people know this in the restaurant business, waste is huge. I was just talking to a sushi chef who was interested in bubble tea, and he was telling me that sometimes he has around 30% waste, which is incredibly high. Chatime benchmarks under 1%. Most of the product coming across too has a shelf life of 4 to 18 months, and it can be stored. And Carlos talked about the size of the facility. It can be stored in an area that's at ambient temperature, so you don't need refrigeration. The other piece that Carlos has worked on over the last 3 years, which is helping us tremendously here in the United States, because we're finding construction is really expensive and it takes a long time to get permitting done and the space built out. He has worked on what we call a shop in a box. And so all of the components that you need to house your refrigeration, to house all of the ingredients are available out of our distribution center and can be easily installed. Some actually come, fully in place, and a contractor can then put other pieces together. So it makes it a lot easier from a standpoint of getting into a facility faster, and less expensively. So I think those two things have certainly helped our business. And one other thing I wanted to add, Carlos mentioned the size of facilities. We actually have a top performing franchisee that's on a college campus that works out of 125 square feet with 4 staff members, and he does fantastically well.
I think that's a really good place to ask a little bit more, Michael, on the location. And so Carlos or Michael, jump in there. How important is the success of that particular location? Are you having to be in big cities? Are you working in suburban areas? Do you want to be where there's younger kids? Or like you said, it does well in the Asian areas. Are you focused on those areas within the country, or is it working everywhere?
Yeah, look, particularly in the US, as we continue to build brand credibility and, of course, awareness, we are extremely conscious around identifying the right type of property within a territory. So much so that whilst we've invested in significant mapping to identify the territories which our franchisees are working with Michael and the broader team, we have appointed a number of property search firms across the US market with an intimate knowledge of states and counties to work directly with our franchise partners to assess the right type of location. So, Andrea, as you mentioned, and as Michael spoke to, our core consumer, our target consumer are millennials and Gen Z. We are seeing, of course, Gen Alpha now becoming a part
Is that
of
a
our.
thing? I don't even know that one.
Absolutely, yeah. So, where we have significant success, as Michael mentioned, is in relation to areas that are close to high schools or secondary schools, and of course, university precincts. That is our sweet spot. Of course, you're not always going to get those locations in those areas. So identifying markets or locations with families and young children is also a critical component for our property search as well.
Yeah, that's helpful. So sticking on the business side of things here, we talked a little bit about operations, the location, the market. Talk to us about marketing. If I'm a new franchisee, how am I going to market? Do I just open the doors and there's a line out the door? Is this more dependent on paid marketing of some sort? Is it more dependent on grassroots marketing? Talk to us about how you get customers to come in the door when you're a brand new franchisee.
So I might just take a step back and share that over the last 4 or 5 months, we've been working on a global refresh project titled Project Joy. And part of that review is really defining our vision, which is to be the most culturally relevant and most loved beverage brand in the world. And what's important about that vision is that whilst Boba and bubble tea is an inherent and important part of our brand, the importance for us to continue to evolve our menu offering to adapt, one, to the hyper-competitive aspect of the category, but two, to meet the requirements of the changing palate and expectations of consumers. You asked earlier, Kris, in relation to health aspects of our product. We know through research and through trends that consumers are opting for healthier products, not necessarily healthy, but healthier products. Boba as a category has always provided consumers the ability to customize their products, particularly in relation to sweetness. So you can actually have a peach green iced tea with no added sugar, just the natural sugars from the fruit. So through that customization aspect, when we talk about launching in a new market, what's critical for us is that the franchisee or the operator spends time in their community sharing the aspects of what makes Chatime great. So whether that be through our innovation, our broad menu offerings, but more importantly, what we do from a community-based perspective. So Chatime is involved in many community groups, school groups, church groups, etc., in really contributing and being part of those local communities. When it comes to opening a location, we work with our marketing team, US-based, to utilize digital marketing aspects, geo-targeting in relation to pre-messaging, so 2 to 3 weeks out from the opening of a store, through to the opening of the store, which includes giveaway products, prizes, etc. And generally what we have seen in the US and through many of our locations across the globe is that we have hundreds of people lining up to experience Chatime through the use of those marketing initiatives. One, to drive trial of our product, and two, to aid in developing the awareness of our location, and more importantly, the franchisee as the owner and operator of that particular business.
Okay. Thank you.
That's great. That's helpful. Thank you. Appreciate you going through the business. We're going to pivot a little bit. Now we're going to talk sort of general franchising. We always love to end these podcasts by hitting on some points advice that you're going to give franchisees. And so the first question is, what's one thing that you would tell somebody contemplating becoming a franchisee of any business? What's one piece of advice you would give them?
I would say on my point here would be, if someone is looking at a retail brick and mortar concept, is to be patient. I think in many cases I work with candidates that may have a specific time frame that they want a business to be open and develop cash flow. And I think particularly with Chatime and any retail brick and mortar business, it's be patient, use the resources of the franchisor, listen to them. And obviously, it's a two-way street, and make sure that you get the best space that you can. In many cases, clients come to us and they tell us, or they tell me, hey, I've got this spot on this corner. I think it's going to be a great for Chatime. And I have to let them know, look, you're probably not going to get that space because it could have been leased already. They don't advertise that. So get the right space and then negotiate the right commercial terms. And the commercial terms can be complicated, and you've got to go through that process. So anyway, I think that's something that I would share with a retail brick and mortar concept.
Okay. Carlos, what about you? What's one advice you'd give them if they're considering becoming a franchisee?
I think the question relates to just any business, right? And Andrea, I think from my perspective is research. Identify what you want from a business perspective, and in particular in franchising. Read the FDD. If you don't understand the legalese aspect of the FDD or franchise agreements, seek some legal advice from an attorney or someone in that space. Speak with existing and franchisees that have potentially exited the system. Understand what type of support a franchisor provides. Understand the performance of the business. Utilize the availability of so much data and insights through digital platforms like the web. How's the category performing? Where is the opportunity? Is that something that, as a potential franchise or business investment, you can see as a viable business proposition for you and potentially your respective family of franchising is what you want to invest in.
Yeah, do new due diligence. I love that. Thank you. So one more question. So now fast forward, they've bought a franchise. They're in that first year, some of those challenging, aspects of the first year. What advice are you going to give them? We'll start with you, Carlos, this time.
Business plans, financial forecasts. Keep revisiting your performance on a month-to-month basis. Understand what are the levers that you can influence to drive the business performance, not necessarily just financial. What are those other metrics within the business that you can influence that's going to improve the business outcome? So plan and continue to assess your performance on a regular basis.
That's great. Michael, what about you? Advice you have?
I would say inspect what you expect from your team. I often get individuals that ask me about how much time they need to spend in the business.
Yeah.
I don't believe there are any businesses where you can be totally absent. You probably want to be putting your money in the stock market, maybe not right now, but there are some good buying opportunities. But I think tying into what Carlos said too is, with Chatime specifically, we've got some young franchisees, and by young standards, in their 20s and 30s, they know bubble tea, and uh, they are of that age group that their staff may be close to. And I think for anyone coming into a business, you don't have to love the business, but if you can identify with it and you are motivated, I would also say get to know your staff well, find out what their personal goals are. I think that's key in the first year when you're learning the business is to help your staff and be more involved. And then one other item is in a new market, spend money on marketing. Yeah, Chartime does a great job. I mean, you look at our grand openings on a Saturday and a Sunday, there's always a line of 200-300 people. Generally, people will wait for an hour for a drink. It's crazy. But so that is done through clever marketing and spending the money. And I would say going through the first 6 months are the most critical of any business is hang in there, don't get despondent, and you'll see your business grow.
I love that. Thank you. Well, Carlos and Michael, thank you so much for coming on today. I think it's great. This is definitely one that, Kris said he didn't even know about this until, started looking at Chow Time. I think you said the same, Michael. I have teenage daughters, so I know this space, the bubble tea boba market. And so it makes sense, but it's definitely something where it's been more of a global sensation and now it's coming to the US. And I think hearing you today saying, okay, there's certain markets where this is going to work, certain demographics that are really gravitating towards this, but also that you're continuing to innovate so that you have national partnerships, whether it's brands like you said, Barbie or SpongeBob, but it's also finding other ways to bring additional SKUs into the business that'll keep expanding on it. So I think that's really important. So thank you both for coming in and talking to us about this brand today. If you're thinking about franchising, remember that while there's no one size fits all, the perfect franchise for you is definitely out there. To explore your options, visit theperfectfranchise.com and click on Let's Talk to schedule a call with one of the consultants on the Perfect Franchise team. We look forward to connecting with you again on our next episode.